what's up guys, Just Ash here, and today we're going to be talking about all of the manga that I have read recently, and by recently I really do mean in like the last month. Now, most of these are first volumes or like the first of a series, please don't judge me for that, but I've only recently started getting back into manga. I now read it when I am waiting for my videos to export or cache. There's a lot of waiting around in doing YouTube, so I read manga in those little moments, really. So, there is a big pile of manga at my feet. Please bear with me, this might be quite a long and rambly video, but let's talk about all the manga that I have read in the last month. So, the first set of manga that I have been reading is My Hero Academia. These guys, I actually bought them months and months ago when I first started watching the anime, which is why I ended up buying them, because I was so obsessed with the anime for about a week, really heavily. I went and bought the first 2 volumes. You know, I'd watched the anime, I know what happens in them, and then I just never read them, which is a really bad habit of mine. So, when I started reading manga again, these were one of the first I read. I think I read a couple in my pile, and then I got through these guys. And you know, they're fantastic. They're Shonen Jump. So what would you expect? Of course I like them because I love Shonen Jump. Next up, I read Bungo Stray Dogs Volume 1. I actually got this in a loot crate, and much like the next manga I'm going to talk about, it's one that I had never heard of before. I don't really know anything about it. I know there's an anime, and I know it was all over my Tumblr for about a week. That's all I knew. So I read this. This is a very, very quick read. I got through this in 15-20 minutes, and it's definitely interesting enough that I'm on the lookout for volume 2. So basically what this is about, or at least what I've gleaned from the first volume, is it's about a group of supernatural like policemen who all have special powers, and they go around fighting crimes that are caused by other people with special powers. That is a really, really, really bad description. But if you go and watch the Loot Crate video that I got it in, I do read the synopsis out in that. But I do recommend it. It's one of those slightly offbeat comedy, dark comedy kind of things. One of the main characters he calls himself a suicide aficionado. So that should let you know just how quirky this manga is. And the next one that I got is Gun Gale Online. This is also one that I got out of a loot crate. It's basically Sword Art Online with guns. I think no one is stuck in VR at the end of this manga. This is volume 1. So I don't know where it's going, but I'm definitely interested. The main character, Karen, is one of those characters that you don't think that you'll be able to relate to, but you end up relating to her anyway. It's really cool. The other characters in the manga are ones you meet when they are in the VR game rather than in real life, which again, I think is pretty cool. And it's not as disappointing as Sword Art Online, which is fantastic. This next one is actually kind of a surprise for anyone who knows me or anyone who at least thinks they know me, because it's Naruto. Now, I have managed to go 20 years without watching the Naruto anime, without reading any Naruto manga, and I don't know why. I have read or watched every other big Shonen Jump series, and I was just never really got into Naruto. I bought this one at the same time I bought a couple of other manga that I'm going to talk about later. And the reason I got this is because it was new to me. I'd never read it before. I'd never watched the anime before. I had even managed to stay away from Naruto spoilers for 20 years. It's amazing. Please don't spoil it in the comments. Anyway, I think everyone knows Naruto, or at least what it's about. It's ninjas. It's really all I have to say about it. It's fantastic though. This is 3 volumes in 1, and if more manga could do this, that'd be grand, because those little skinny 1 volumes, I can read them in 20 minutes and it's just not enough. Now, this next one is kind of weird. Either you'd expect me to have read it already, or I was never going to touch it just because of what it is, but it is the Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney manga volume 1. Alex has the whole series of this. They are on our bookshelf just here. And I had a bus journey home the other day for my brother's wedding, and I managed to blast through the first volume of Phoenix Wright in that. It doesn't exactly follow the plot of the games in the same way that the anime does, which I really like. I am one of those people who will watch the anime and read the manga even though they are exactly the same, and still enjoy it, but I can understand why people might want something a bit different, which is what I really like about this one. All of your main characters are in it. You've got Phoenix, Edgeworth, Maya, May, Detective Gumshoe, they're all here. It's a really interesting story. I'm really intrigued to see where it's going, which again is something that I didn't think I would get from a Phoenix Wright manga, just because I genuinely thought it was going to follow the plot of the games. Next up, we have Blood Lad. I have no idea how I even heard about this. I think it was because I watched the anime on Netflix when it was on there, but I only got halfway through, which is actually about where this volume ends. This is, I think it's volumes 1 and 2. Bear with. It's all the way up to chapter 10, which I think is roughly where the anime, or roughly where I stopped watching in the anime. I love this. It is about a vampire called Stas, who is a total weeaboo. He lives in the demon world, but he is obsessed with human Japan. And then a human girl wanders into the demon world, gets herself killed, and basically he has to try and revive her and bring her back to being human. He does it for selfish reasons, but I want to see if they stay as selfish as they seem in this first volume, so I'm definitely going to read more of this. So the next thing that I've read is the only current manga that I am reading, and I say current in that it is still being made, and it's so frustrating for me because I want more. It's not going to be out over here until November. The guy who writes it keeps stopping. It's like the Game of Thrones of manga for me. It's just never going to end. And what it is it is Dead, I'm never going to get this right. It is Dead, Demons, Destruction. It's by Inio Asano, the same guy who does Goodnight Pumpin'. And this is often described as his lightest and most upbeat work, in big old air quotes. Basically, it's about life in Tokyo after an alien invasion. And it is very slice of life, with that as like a backdrop. At the end of the second volume, I'm not 100% convinced that it is going to remain an upbeat manga. It's not that upbeat to begin with, but compared to other works from Inio Asano, it is. I'm sure many of you out there probably haven't heard of Goodnight Pumpin'. Apparently it's harrowing. I've never read it. I'm not emotionally prepared. But this is really good. I love the art style in these. I don't know if I'll be able to show you them. I might do a close-up of them. But the characters are all really stylized, everyone looks really unique, and then the backgrounds are really hyper-realistic. It's super cool, and again, I cannot wait for the next volume to come out. I need to read more of this. I need to know where it is going. And Alex bought these for himself, and I am now further ahead than him. Now, the last one on my already read list is Death Note, the Black Edition. Death Note is an old favourite of mine. I've read it before. I've watched the anime. If you don't know the story, it is basically Light Yagami finds a Death Note which belongs to a Shinigami, and then he just kills everyone. And it's all about, it's very much a like crime thriller with some supernatural elements in there. And some weird twisty romance elements as well. But anyway, it is one of the best manga and best anime series that I have ever watched. I highly, highly recommend Death Note to anyone that hasn't watched it yet. What I don't recommend is the terrible Netflix movie. Don't watch that. If you've never watched Death Note before, don't watch that. It's a really bad introduction. Now, that is the manga that I have read recently, but I do have some manga currently on my reading list. And because it is spooky season, the October has started, Halloween is on its way, Halloween is my favourite time of year, I have selected some dark and twisted horror manga, and one that's not necessarily dark and twisted, but A, gets there, and B, will traumatize me. So let's get into them. So the first thing on my to-be-read list is Ibitsu. I hadn't heard about this until I went into Waterstones to buy a different manga, and this was sat on the shelf. So, the blurb basically says that an urban legend in Japan is that there is a gothic Lolita girl who hangs out near local, like, trash drops, and she asks you, do you have a little sister? If you answer no, if you answer yes, she kills you, and if you answer no, she basically stalks you to try and be your perfect little sister. I don't think it's going to end well for the main character. I haven't even started reading this yet, but like flicking through, it looks like it's got a really cool art style. It's going to be a really creepy kind of psychological story, I hope. I'm also really, really hoping that this is a complete story and that I don't have to wait for a second volume, because this is quite new. And if I get to the end of this and the story's not complete and I have to wait like 6 months to find out what happens, I'm gonna be so mad. Next on my reading list is one that I have actually read before, but I really enjoy. It's Corpse Party. It totally fits with spooky season. I've played the game, watched the anime, and the reason that I started any of this Corpse Party obsession of mine is I watched PewDiePie play the first game years and years and years ago on his channel, back when he was still doing gameplay. I am absolutely obsessed with this series. I love the creepy, like, supernatural elements. I kind of do like the over-the-top goriness of it. It's like, I like films like that as well. The first Saw movie, Hostel, things like that. So this is actually perfect for me. I have 2 volumes. I've got the first one and the second one. I need to get the third one, and I think the fourth one's maybe out now as well, but I'm not 100% sure. But yeah, so Corpse Party's on my reading list as well. And finally, on my reading list is the entire series of Goodnight Pumpkin. Look at how happy this colour is. I can guarantee you by the end of this series, it's not going to be this happy. It's really cool when you see the whole selection of books together, because they go from yellow to grey to white, and I think that's really cool. I think that shows a really good level of design. This is Inio Asano again, the guy who did the Destruction books. Alex has read these. He has recommended them to me at least 100 times, and every single time I've gone, no, I'm not doing it to myself. These books start off, I wouldn't necessarily say the happiest of manga, but they start off okay, and then they just kind of go downhill. Like, they are tragic and traumatizing. And I'm going to do it to myself. I'm going to traumatize myself with them. I'm going to have the whole 7 books read by the end of October. And I'm going to review them on the channel after I've read them. Because if I don't say that to someone, including Alex who is watching me film this, I'm never going to do it. So keep your eyes peeled for a Goodnight Pumpkin review. I might review Ibitsu as well, just because that's one I haven't read before, and Pumpkin's one that I haven't read before. But that is it, basically. Other than that, if you guys have any manga that you would like to recommend me, please leave them in the comments, because the only way I ever read manga is if I have watched the anime, I have had them recommended to me, or they are sent to me in a loot crate. So please, recommend me your manga. I like shonen, I like horror, and I can even deal with a little bit of slice of life. Nothing too romantic though, not a big fan of that. And that's it. If you've enjoyed this video, please give it a like, and as always, you can join me next Friday at 8 for another video.